The U.S. government has given billions of dollars to businesses in an effort to curb the impact of the U.S. government has given billions of dollars to businesses in an effort to curb the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The government will begin to pursue recouping these funds in 2021. Aggressive penalties will be imposed on companies that do not follow regulations and guidelines for proper use of these funds. Criminal charges are already being levied on fraudulent use. Don't suffer again. Get a customized business operations success suite from Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services for your company today. BOSS packages include entity formation, payroll, accounting and bookkeeping, tax planning, tax filings, and quarterly strategy sessions to minimize your tax liability, increase efficiency, and maximize your profits. Make your appointment today at elite8financial.com. Get the guidance, tools, and protection your business needs now. Get BOSS. Get behind the shield.
Welcome to another episode of Boss Talk Radio, everybody. It is brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services. So, little housekeeping. Of course, you know we're bringing you the hot guests. You're going to get a lot of information. Get your pen pad, your doodle notes, your electronic note taker, whatever it is you do to get this information, because I don't know what else to tell y'all. Like, we've been doing this now. We're in season 2. It's 100 plus episodes in the bank. If your financial situation is not changing, one thing we figured out is not the education, it's the application. So you're going to have to apply this information that you get. We have amazing guests in the building today, Mr. David Wren. We're going to get into talking about the timeless gold and silver, how to buy this thing, why to buy this thing. And we're going to compare that to some of the more trendy investments that's going on right now. But if you haven't done so already, go out and pick up your copy of Remarkable Business Volume 2. I'm a contributing author in that thing. And once again, it's just a gang of information. But before we get into today's show, I wanted to hit you guys with a little bit of motivation, something I was thinking about over the last couple of days. And I apologize. I know that y'all guys are used to seeing the daily episodes with the tax tip Tuesdays and the motivation Mondays. But, you know, we have to get that coinage too. So your boy's been working, fighting the IRS, getting things done and saving taxpayers a bunch of money, because that's what I do. So if you have IRS problems, understand that not opening that letter is not going to make it go away. All you're going to accomplish is foregoing some of the rights and limiting some of the ways in which we can fight for you. So we're going to get into this episode right after this.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
Get behind the shield.
The main reason I chose to use Elite 8 Tax Preparation Services was mainly because of the certifications they have received. George and his crew have multiple certifications, and I felt very comfortable in switching from my previous tax preparation company to his company. I have extreme confidence in my tax return this year. His attention to detail was amazing, and I felt like nothing was going to be missed. And with my job and being an independent contractor and being a private business owner, there are so many pieces of the puzzle, and I didn't want any of those things to be missed. And believe me, I believe that they found it. Get behind the shield.
Welcome to Boss Talk Radio, the #1 online business and entrepreneurial talk show. Brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services.
Talk radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a boss talk radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
He gon' fix your situation like there ain't no time for wasting. We ain't playing when we saying
he the boss.
And if you ever have a problem, he gon' show you how to solve it. Listen in and he'll show you he the boss.
Talk radio,
here's your host, the Texas tax expert, George Dandridge.
Talk radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
So I was thinking about this the other day, right? People are talking about they don't have competition or don't compare yourself to others. And now I know that social media has this thing where everybody is living their best life. And it kind of looked that way till they was looking for those PPP funds or those stimulus checks and where my stimmy at and so forth and so on. But I wanted to drop this quarter in your mailbox, just make this call right here. Think about this. If you don't have anyone in your network, in your surroundings, that you are comparing yourself to, not from the standpoint of, oh, I want to be like them, or from a jealousy, envy place, but I'm talking about somebody that's doing something and somewhere in what they're doing is part of your wheelhouse too, but they're doing it on this level. If you can't be inspired or aspire to be like that, how do you get greater? Don't worry, I'll wait. Well, no, I'm not gonna wait too long because my man on the line. But here's the thing though. Like I think about some of the people in my network, whether they're mentors, colleagues, coaches, whatever the case may be, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one walking around with an absolutely phenomenal circle, that I see these people and, even the ones that are in my space, they may be doing this part so much better than me. Like, matter of fact, I'm gonna just shout out some people. I'm gonna change his name. Y'all know my man, Brian Juba. We're gonna change his name to Mr. Passport. My man, like, I don't even know how he do it. Like during the middle of tax season, he go on like 3-4 vacations. Now I understand he have a team, but then after that, like he's literally in the country like 1 week out of every month. Yeah, I aspire to do that. I got my man Derek Harper. He came on here and dropped that credit knowledge on you guys. This dude have a circle that like they just make money together. So they play hard together because they're making money together. Isn't that the circle you would want to be in? I heard, I read this actually. I read if you have 4 or 5 people sitting around gossiping and talking, and they ain't talking about making no money, that's what you call a nonprofit organization. That was funny to me. I'm sorry. But then I have my girl out there, Bernadette Harris, out there in Atlanta. She did a TEDx talk like from our industry. I was like, wow. I got my girl Nail Carter out there in Virginia. She has this whole new program where she brings on like 15 professionals in their own right to show you how to take your business completely to the cloud. Now, those people that have been in my industry for a long time, we're not talking about those light switch preparers that, turn the light on January 1st and April 15th, they gone. We're talking about the people that's been doing this. You know how much paper and stuff, we used to rack up and everything, and then we have some stuff that's in portals and stuff now. So it's not as bad, but you still have to hold on to certain records or whatever. Show you how to take your whole business to the cloud. Never deal with, do you know how much money I saved on ink? Like, these are some of the things in business that's an operating cost that kind of get by you, and what I'm saying to you, I can't forget my man Kamari Ellis. Like, one of the reasons you see me today here on Boss Talk Radio, I call him Mr. Media Man. Like, he be killing it. I don't know how he invests so much time in chopping up the videos and editing the videos and, still finding quality content and go in depth in it. Like, I can tell you, that's some work. Like, if I get a few cases on my desk where I have to fight the IRS, y'all already seen it. You might go a week or two without an episode of Boss Talk Radio because I got to get it over there. I ain't got time to be doing the editing and all of that kind of stuff. So saying that to say, again, if you don't have people in your circle, in your network that you can learn something from, that you can, because, like if you ever had a conversation with me, I'm kind of high strung, some people call it an a-hole, some people think I'm narcissistic. It's not that. I believe that God gives everybody a gift. Outside of your God-given gift, I'm just better than you. That's just how I feel, So, but it does great wonders in the humbling process when I can look at these people and say, ooh, I'm not that good at that yet. I can work on this. Oh, I didn't know how to do that right there. I could work on this. So saying that to say, if, again, you don't have people in your environment, people in your wherewithal that can bring you that kind of flavor, you really need to change your circle, or maybe not. Maybe you're part of the problem or whatever, but somebody's going to hear this for what it's worth, and they're going to be inspired by that. We'll be back right after this.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
I paid the call to be born.
So I'm going to give you guys a business pro hack, because when you're dealing with people that's really doing business, I'm not talking about those people that got a business card printed and walking around social media claiming that they're doing it on a level that they're really not. I'm talking about real business where business is being done. Master your lane. And if you're going to merge in traffic, you better have on your blinker. What you talking about, George? Man, look, be careful what you campaign for, because you might get elected and then you got to do the job. There's too many of y'all out here that can't do what you say you can do. And we know that because anytime you come against some real business folks, you can't provide proof of results. What the young people say, where's your receipts? And the worst thing you can do is make a connection and you manage to kind of fool somebody, but then they put you in front of their network and you get tore down. Where am I coming from? Why are we going into this in 5 minutes of fire? I had a consult call. I really didn't have to be on this call. It was an extension of myself to be of service to one of my best clients. And I felt obliged to do so because they were talking with someone who I had referred them to. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm getting absolutely frustrated. Why? Well, number one, we had a meeting about 2 months ago This was 4 months after the initial introduction. And that meeting, I found that nothing had been done. And there was just a bunch of chatter. See, real business folks, we're not about all of this right here. What it take to get to the next part? That's all we want to do, So from that meeting to this one, I figure, okay, well, it must be time for me to come in and examine some financials or something like this must need me. And I get in and it's still a bunch of chatter. And we're still at day one, like 6 months later. So what was really, really disheartening though, they're on this Zoom and one of the people are trying to bring the Zoom to a close, and he's doing it in a way that made sense because he's like, okay, well, we should put a stop in it right here because we kind of need this and this, and otherwise we can't move forward. And I'm like, okay. But then one of the other people had something to say, and as soon as they got started, the Zoom cut off. I don't think y'all heard me. The Zoom cut off. And the big message flashed across the screen. Your free Zoom session has expired. People, if you're going to be in business and you're going to do business with real business people, and you decide that y'all need to come to a conference virtually via Zoom, and I love Zoom, by the way. I hate it, but I love it. I hate it because there's days where I'm literally on Zooms from 9 in the morning to 8 at night, but it shrinks the world, in my opinion. It gives access where there's no access. You will have the opportunity to meet, talk, and exchange with people you otherwise would not have access to without catching a flight or something. So this was great, right? But again, the Zoom cut off. How do you claim to have a firm and you're trying to do a deal worth upwards of 1.6 and the Zoom cut off? A Zoom subscription for the year, I think, is $189 a month. Don't make me lie. I have an ops manager that's going to take care of that when it comes up. He's like, hey, this is due, subscription's due. But even if it's $250 a month, it can't be much more than that. I mean, $250 a year, it can't be much more than that or whatever, unless you're doing a big corporate one. The Zoom cut off. And I'm supposed to respect you as a business person. I'm supposed to trust assets with you. Maybe it's just me, but that sounds kind of crazy. Be careful what you campaign for because you might get elected. Amari in the building. What's going on, Doctor? Glad to see you, baby. But yeah, so get your house in order and present yourself, because here's an interesting thing about 2021, and I challenge anybody to prove me wrong. We have the most accepting business culture. People are real relaxed, about how you should it don't have to be a white shirt, red tie, blue coat anymore, for everything, You don't have to hide tattoos, and it's okay to have an earring in your ear or whatever. You don't have to speak perfect English or whatever. You can put some slang in that thing, But whatever it is you say you can do, please be able to do that. When I say I solve IRS problems, let me make sure you understand something. I always add to that, short of you committing a crime. I am not a criminal attorney. I cannot go to court on your behalf if you committed a crime. I don't do that. But short of that, I got you, So, hey, be careful what you campaign for because you might get elected. This has been 5 Minutes of Fire. We'll be back right after this.
Finding your brand space in this ever-changing economy can be challenging to new and established businesses. Graphic Line Media can help launch your business's brand potential to unknown places with creative revisioning that relentlessly presses the competition. From graphic design, web, print, apparel, media, and social, we have something designed to grow your business. Don't hesitate. Rule your space. Visit Graphic Line Media at graphiclinemedia.com or join our Facebook page at Graphic Line Media to get special discounts and offers.
And we're back. Had to just let that little steam from under the collar because that was we coming on right after that call. But there's three things in the human existence that will never lose value: silver, gold, and knowledge. These the three things is the key to wealth. So we have some trendy things out there. We have, and I'm not going to call it trendy when we're talking about cryptocurrency in and of itself. The different types may be trendy. And then we have everybody being properly concerned with, the steady slide of the dollar. Boy, I hope y'all secured some assets before this fourth quarter 2021, because it's about to get real ugly out here. Y'all boy Moneybag Joe. Oh, man, y'all loved him. Was happy to get that guy in office. Did you see this tax plan? I heard somebody say, well, it only affects the top 1%. The hell you reading? Heard somebody else say, well, it don't matter if your income ain't over 400,000. Well, first and foremost, that affects myself and a lot of my clients. That's the first part. But the second part, don't you believe it? Because that ain't the truth. And on top of that, what y'all really have to understand is that, tying that into the minimum wage argument and everything else, Americans have the stupidest philosophy on planet Earth. We want the highest income and the lowest cost. If you can make that equation work, you deserve to be president, I guess. But today, we have someone on that is able to educate you about not only what it means to have precious metals, but the proper way to buy them, how it's valued, and all of those other things. So welcome to the show, my man David Wren with Prosperity Mint. How you doing today, sir?
Man, George, I was sitting back just listening to you, bro. I love the show. I love the content. You were so right. My favorite point was that you made was a nonprofit organization. Oh my goodness, you hit that out of the park. That is so true. And you just speaking about wasting of your time when you're trying to promote yourself into something that you're not really able to do. You're not there yet. It's okay to grow, but definitely be honest in business, because your overall work ethic and your overall capabilities, the truth will be known. And you definitely want to, business has it's a very, very small community, and, there's lasting impressions that you have. So it's always better to under promise and overperform is something that you really want to do. And I loved your segues before the show got started, my brother.
Yeah, that's just something I'm very, very big on, because, our most valuable asset is always time, but that's the most equitable asset there is, because everybody only gets 24 hours, so I just hate for time to be wasted,
So that's your fungibility, right? That's your fungibility. Right. So true, George. So true. I never thought about it that way.
So I didn't go too deep into it, but drop a little bit of your background in on everybody. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking with David Wren from Prosperity Mint. Go ahead and share the video. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching from Instagram, thank you for tuning in. You're not getting all the special effects and everything. You just see my big old head phone, but be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. But go ahead and tell everybody about your background and how you got into this, because they need to understand you're the authority in this space.
Sure. First of all, thank you, George, for having me on Boss. And I really do appreciate it and looking forward to sharing information with you and your listeners. I'm David Wren. I'm the controller of Prosperity Mint. It's a full-service precious metals dealership here, and we've been in business for about 10 years. I actually got started into the precious metals field roughly when I was about 13 years old. A young lady, I was going into a store. Young lady was coming out of the store. She was our neighborhood matriarch. Her name was Latina Briggs, and Latina says, "David, you know that silver is more valuable than gold." And it struck my spirit. It was as if it was my overall calling, my spiritual calling, and it just stood me. And she walked away, and since that time, I've been on this journey to actually find out why silver is so much more valuable than gold, and why the precious metals is such a crucial foundation part of our existence. And throughout my overall history, and throughout my overall educational experience, that has bared out, and it has bared out even more. So from that time on, I started to go over to Wall Street as a young child, and I befriended a broker in the commodities market. He used to have lunch with me. He used to say different things about how the commodity market works, and then from there, I started to grow my overall knowledge of the precious metals. I never went to school. I'm not a schooled individual, but I based all of my overall knowledge based off of an educational process, where you learn the best process to get the best outcome or result that you're seeking, and that gains you experience. So
David, I'm going to ask you something right there. I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to blow past that. Like, that wasn't one of those value big money drop things right there. We're going to hit the rewind button. My man said, I pursued education, but I'm not a school type, but I wanted to get to the value of what I wanted to. Man, you preaching. Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
That's very true, because, if we really look at it, George, and you know this, from your business, once and George is in business, and when you start to engage in business relationships, what you really find is that there's cross-pollination from one business to every business. And so one of the things that I've learned is that when I was in school, I was schooled to know the price of everything, but knowing the value of nothing. So I realized that school was teaching me to be a consumer. And with a consumer mentality, you will never be able to become wealthy. So what I did was that I wanted to acquire knowledge, and I wanted to acquire experience that would build my overall wealth for myself and my family, and for those that I love, and for those that I've yet not named. And that was my overall process, because that's what the overall institutions of schooling is about. It's just like, if you think about obedience schools for dogs. It's obedience schools for dogs, because they're teaching them how to be obedient to their overall will, and that is not going to make you wealthy. It'll make you rich, but it won't make you wealthy. And the bad thing about being rich is this: you're one economic crisis away from going broke. When you're wealthy, you never go broke. You can't even give it all away. And that's something that I had to learn. And that's something that I practice. And that's something that I actually teach my clients. And that's my engagement in all of my relationships.
That's it. Show over. Like, there's nothing else. The cost of everything and the value of nothing. That knocked somebody over the head. I felt that in my soul. But just I put that on the screen, and you come back and narrow this thing down to obedience school. That summed up a whole lot of my preachings right there.
Very true. And George, you were talking about the STEMIs and the stimulus programs, and you were basically warning everyone what is happening is not in your best interest. It is actually how you're going to be subjugated even further, because we are moving from a debt-based economy to a collateralized economy. Okay, because the debt has expanded so much, and when debt expands, it goes into default because it can't be serviced. Exactly. And so what's going to happen is that, you know, some people are taking the opportunity to get unemployment, understand if that's necessary, but some people are taking advantage of it. Let me tell you something, the stimulus programs and everything else was the setup for your overall economic failure because of the caste system the economic caste system that's about to perpetuate itself in everyone's life. And in that caste system, wherever you are, you're going to be locked into that. And you're not going to be able to get out of that. Yes. And that's because the resources you're not going to be able to acquire resources at the entry point that's profitable that entry point that's going to give you profitability. You won't be able to afford it. This is what this inflation right there.
Because that's a concept that, you know, for the past year, I've been encouraging everybody to invest 10 minutes a day during the week on financial literacy. And this didn't catch fire, though, until recently. Master P was being interviewed, and he said, invest 30 minutes a day, and it got shared like a prostitute. Yeah. The thing is, though, when you talk about being locked in that space because the entry point isn't accessible to be profitable, I need you to break that down like you're talking to a 2-year-old, because I get it. But I need everybody to get that point, because we have, and I'm here for it. I love that more and more people are trying to invest now and whatever, but I think the mindset is wrong. You know, the heart's there, but the mindset is just wrong. Break that thing down for us.
Yeah, and it's very important. I teach our clients this. The key to a profit is not where you exit. Profitability is derived at entry. You want to acquire your profit at your entry point, or in whatever it is that you're investing in. So the key to a profit is entry, not exit. I'll give you an example. You have two people that bought a home. One just recently bought the home. They bought the home for $1 million. There's another family that's been there for a while, and they purchased in this neighborhood. Both houses across the street from each other have the same comps. They're both worth $1 million. 1 year later, the one person that just bought the home at $1 million now sells it for 1.1. So most people say that they made a profit of $100,000. Okay, great. But the person across the street, once that one house sold for $1.1 million, the person across the street decided to sell as well. But see, they entered the market at $100,000 is when they acquired property. When that property was undervalued, when the market knew that it had value, but it was undervaluing it for its potential. So what happens is this: they both get a check for $1.1 million. The person that paid $1 million only has a profitable gain of $100,000. The person that originally bought the home at $100,000, they got the same $1.1 million check, but they have $1 million that now they'll be able to move. That's why it's important. Profitability is derived at entry, not at exits. And if you're a consumer mindset, what happens is that you're price sensitive. You make a decision. People that are price sensitive make a decision based off of price. And that's where you're getting fleeced by the market, because you don't know the value of what the price is. So this is how gentrification happens in our neighborhoods. Because in our neighborhood, someone will come to someone in gentrification and gentrifying the whole community. They want to buy the house. See, the house is a liability. It's not a form of money. The real value is in the property. The house may be $1 million, $100,000, but the property that the house sits on is worth $3 million. And you sold the house for $100,000, and that's a profitable return to the overall buyer of $3.1 million. So no one knows value is important.
Hold on, David. I need y'all to go to preciousmetals.edu.eventbrite.com because David then got into a rhythm right here. I ain't gonna let him give you all the game, though. Y'all gonna have to go get this education, But and I wish I had thought to have one of our realtors on right now because. He's expounding that market and like people misunderstand what equity really is. Like if you buy a house and you financed it and over 30 years, you've paid this much interest and you think because your house value went up, you have equity. No, beloved, that's your money in there. That's not what the equity is. Equity is when the entire area was being developed and you got in first and dealt with the noise of the construction and the paving and the building of the school and whatever. And by the time that neighborhood is built out, and everybody else is starting to come in and they get landlocked or whatever, and somebody then sold. We're not going to even talk about the $250,000 profit tax exclusion. We're gonna leave that out of that. $500,000 if you're married. But I'm saying there's a method to this. Wealthy people don't get there by accident. It's not how none of this works. And in order to get that game, you have to be willing to invest with the professionals because, hey, I don't know what David spends annually on this education thing, but like my back office, they had to come knock on the door like, yo, whoa, you done murdered the CE budget for this year. You may well slow down. So the thing is that you have to go into the best place to see the game is inside the arena. Buy a ticket.
Yes. You definitely, I will tell you, my budget is not only monetarily. My budget is the most, it's the most important form of money that I have, and that's my energy. I put so much energy into learning. I put so much energy into collaborating with other individuals. I put so much energy into people because people are a form of money. And if you really want to learn something, the best thing to do is to learn from other people's experience, because one thing that I've also learned is that the fool fails to heed good instruction. While the fool fails to heed good instruction, what happens is this, is that in the wise heeds good instruction. And that's because the fool learns from experience. And sometimes we get into situations where we didn't listen or we didn't learn, and so we had to learn the hard way. Well, that's, a foolish way if you're wise enough to heed good instructions. So you always want to, and I always want to be around individuals, regardless of who they are. I'm not a respecter of person. I respect people. There is a seed of profitability that someone is planting, and the overall seed grows to bear good fruit. I definitely want to partake of that fruit, but I also want to feed the roots. So it's a collective prudence thing. You really have to give as much as you take as well. And that's one thing that we really don't want to do in a lot of instances, is that we always want to get and we don't want to give. And that is always going to prevent you, in my opinion, from being healthily wealthy, because then you can get it other ways. You can definitely get it other ways. So, but George, I really want to talk about some precious metal stuff because it's very, very important, especially in today's world going on economically. Most people don't know that silver is 10 times more valuable than gold. While, I call gold the Muhammad Ali of the precious metals. Everyone's heard of it, but silver is 10 times more valuable than gold. As a matter of fact, of all of the 14 precious metals, all of them combined aren't as important or as valuable as silver. Silver is still more valuable than all of the precious metals combined. And the reason being is because it's the only precious metal that can directly save your life. It's the only
precious metal. Into that right after this. I was hoping to catch you before you told them the why and build the suspense on that one. But we're gonna pay a couple bills and we'll be right back.
Ready to begin your business? Should you be an LLC or a C corporation? How do you track the cost of goods versus operating supplies? What are your depreciable assets? Are you structured to obtain business credit? Not sure? Get a boss. An individual business operations success suite from Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services will position your business for success and avoid the pitfalls of startups. From registering with your state, operating agreements, bookkeeping, tax filings, and more, Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services can be your growth partner at every level of your business. Schedule your needs assessment today at www.elite8financial.com/boss or by phone at 469-412-0056.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
We're back on Boss Talk Radio, and we're talking with David Wren of Prosperity Mint. My intention today was to try and save some legacies and help save some money. But now David is talking about saving lives. Drop it on him.
So, yeah, very true. And just before we went to the commercial break, and I was talking about the value of things. And this is a great example of being price sensitive and unaware of value. Most people would think that silver is the least valuable of all the precious metals, and particularly the investment grades of precious metals, what would be gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and rhodium. And they will come to that conclusion because of its price. And that's just the opposite. One of the things that wealthy individuals and institutions know is that the control of valuable resources is why they're wealthy. And so what they want to do is they don't want to have a measure of competing. So they want to have the best attributes and the best intrinsic assets in their in their reach at the lowest entry point. So now, silver is more valuable than gold because this is the only precious metal that can directly save your life. And not only that, you would think about it, George, how important is the sun, S-U-N, to you and I and everyone here? The sun.
Essential. Quintessential to our existence. Well, the sun is what it is, and the sun is able to do what it does because it has more silver in it than any other element. So the sun is primarily made up of silver. And because the sun is primarily made up of silver, that's where you get your light, that's where you get your heat, that's where you get your thermal energy, and that's where you get your electricity. And that's just how valuable is that. So that's really what the overall industry doesn't want people to know. And when you don't know that, then what happens is that you act counter to the truth. And I'll tell you something about the truth. The truth doesn't need you or I, but we need The truth needs absolutely nothing. It stands independently.
It stands alone. And so there are fundamental things that everyone should be doing. Like with George, one of the things in creating wealth is that first you have to be a prodigious saver. And I know in my wealth building practice, I do this. I don't do tax evasion. That's illegal. I do tax avoidance.
Come on,
tax evasion is illegal. I do tax avoidance. Because if you are a taxpayer, what is actually that you are is you're really the overall burden bearer of the government's debt. And what you need to do is have your taxes structured correctly and to get all of the exemptions that are there for you. And guess what? The exemptions are there for you to go to zero. And you should be using those. And you should have a tax professional teaching you those things, because if you don't do that, then you're actually spinning some of your wheels, and you're not going to get wealth tracked that way. So
it's called tax planning, boys and girls.
It is, and the precious metals has to be a part of that. And the reason why the precious metals has to be a part of your overall physical holdings is because of this. George, how important is it for someone to get out of debt? How important would that be? To get out of debt? How important would that be financially for someone to get out of debt, bad debt? Because I know George.
Right. I was going to speak to that. So yeah, you absolutely not only. I mean, because until you get out of bad debt, it's really difficult to start to amass wealth. And I always compare that to the diet. It's like, you can take any kind of pill, surgery, whatever you want. At the end of the day, the only surefire way to do this is to burn more calories than you take in. And when it comes to wealth, you have to accumulate more assets than you
than liabilities. Right, than liabilities. So when you're in debt, what you're actually doing is that you're building the wealth of someone else. You're not building your wealth. And one of the things with the precious metals is that when you take your cash and you buy precious metals, that's a savings plan, because what you're doing is that the cash that you have in your bank, the cash that you try to save, and the cash that you use daily is losing purchasing power. So it's the worst form of debt because it's losing purchasing power. You could pay off your, contractual debt is what we mostly talk about, getting out of debt, paying off your car note, paying off your mortgage, your student loan, your credit cards. That's contractual debt. But there's a worse form of debt. That's by you saving in a debt instrument. And the US dollar is a debt instrument. And if you're saving in a debt instrument, you can never get out of debt. You have to use that debt in a way that gains you more and gains you wealth. And there's a proper way to do it. And so you should be exchanging your currency for money. Now you're saving.
Let's talk to the young people for a second, because there's this thing that is perpetuated as cool, and it never made any sense to me. And maybe you can address it better than I can, or whatever. I see all of these people on social media, and they have thousands of dollars stacked in their hand by their ear or spread across the bed or whatever. And somehow this is supposed to be a cool thing or whatever. And first and foremost, I wasn't always George. There was a time I was Big G, and I don't know, you don't find that much cash in front of me on a hungry day. I digress. The part of the story is, can you speak to them about the better way to do that than being on social media with cash? Because, like, for y'all that don't know how David and I connected, he was actually on one of Dr. O's lives or whatever, and I just happened to pick up social media at the time, and I seen her holding this big block. I'm like, what is she doing? And so I tuned in, and I was just like, wow, he blew me away inside of 3 minutes with the information he was giving. That's why I was like, I ain't gonna let him give y'all all that today. Y'all gonna have to go and hit one of these classes or something. But talk to the young people about why that's not good, besides being robbed.
Sure. It's a lie. And you hear that cash is king. No, cash is never king until you transfer it into a king wage. And a king's wage, what king is paid, every king and queen is paid in silver. Every lady and a gentleman that works for a king and queen is paid in gold. Every slave is in debt. I want you to think about that. That federal note that you're holding, cream, cash rules everything around me, it's a slave's wage. And a slave could never become king until a slave acts like a king. And so when you're holding this cash, what actually is this, is you're not getting wealthy. You're only maybe temporarily rich until your first financial crisis happens. So what you should be saving in is something that has intrinsic value that the market and the economy deems as necessary, such as land, such as oil, such as silver, gold, platinum, palladium, and rhodium, such as food, such as water. These things will always, because of it sustains life, these things sustain life, so their value is priceless. Your cash is trash. Give you an example of how your cash is trash. You can have more cash today. Most people think because we have more cash today that we're richer than our great-grandparents or our great-great-grandparents or even the individuals that just came out of slavery and got their overall emancipation. And I will tell you that they were far wealthier than you today than you are than them. And this is because of this.
They knew how to grow food first of all.
They know how to grow food. Right. They have real intrinsic knowledge on how to sustain themselves. But more importantly about also is here. When you go to the grocery store, I remember when I was a child, I would go to the grocery store and I would buy a pack of gum for 25 cents. I would get 7 sticks of gum for 25 cents. You go to the grocery store today and you try to buy a pack of gum, it's only going to be 5 pieces of gum in it, smaller, and it's 45 cents. It's not that the price of gum is going up, it's the value of the currency that you're using is going down. So our great-grandparents, there was only one person that had to work in the family to provide for the family. In today's family, mom, dad, and all 8 children and their grandparents have to work in order to provide for one. This is called inflation. And here's the thing about this cash, and it's such a misnomer. If you go to the U.S. debt clock, you see how fast debt is being created in the United States. If your overall wages isn't faster, that overall creation of debt, you're losing. If you're getting paid at the same rate that they're creating debt, you're even. If you are slower than the creation of debt, that's what happens. You're falling behind and you'll never catch up. So if you want to show cash and really matter, well, guess what? You have to have more cash than what the debt clock is creating. And if you look at the debt clock, that is moving at such a rapid speed. And most people think that they got a raise from their job. They got a 10% raise. Well, 10% is nowhere near catching up with the rate of inflation.
And not to mention, in all of that too, I think it's sits beyond people, and you said it earlier, and I want to give it to them in a simpler term. Understand that when the government spends, that's on your wage. You're paying that back. So when you don't object, I hear some people say, well, I'm not into politics or whatever, but when you don't object to the way money is being spent, even if you're one of those people, oh, the government needs to spend this on this, or, hey, let's get another stimmy. Understand that your future self is paying that back.
Yes, 100. And I'm glad you brought that up, George. Let me give you, if you look at the U.S. debt clock, it will say debt per citizen. That means how much every citizen would have to pay in order to pay off that debt. Then it says per taxpayer. So what does that tell you?
I think we froze up there, David. I'm going to go ahead and hit a commercial here and see if we can get you back live, because you were about to get into that thing. We're back on Boss Talk Radio. We had some technical difficulties, so we lost David there for a second. I'm sure he's going to be back in just a moment here. While he is gone, we're going to pay some bills.
Why buy pieces to the puzzle when you can purchase a proven system for less? Elite 8 Tax Pro Solutions was perfected from errors. Now you can eliminate the learning curve by simply following our proven system for success. You'll benefit from brand recognition, success coaches, cloud-based software, award-winning marketing strategies, and more. Get out of that boring job and create the freedom you want with a proven company. Go to ElitePTS.com to see customized options and get started now.
And we're back on Boss Talk Radio. We got my man back. David, can you hear me?
Yes, got you. Sorry about that.
All right. So before we froze up, you were about to break that thing down and get into the proper way to convert the cash into a wealth asset to get away from the slave part.
Yes. And the proper way to do it is that you want to take your cash. You use cash to maintain your quality of life and to service your maintain your quality of life and your what you want to do. Quality of life and service your debt. So that's what you want to do. You want to have your cash around for your quality of life, things you like to do, and to service your obligations and to meet your overall obligations for your home and for your family. You should never save in cash. Should you have a small amount for emergencies? Yes. But outside of that, you shouldn't be saving in the cash. The only way, the thing that you should be doing with your cash, you should always convert your cash into money. Okay. You should be acquiring properties, valuable properties. You should be acquiring assets that have intrinsic value. You should be acquiring the overall, you definitely have to acquire precious metals. And this is so true. My man, Roger Grant, I've been working with for a long time, but good friend. Very, very important. You want to use your cash to actually transfer it into a form of money. And then once you do that, now you want to grow your assets. And now in growing your assets, now you're becoming prodigiously wealthy because you're a prodigious saver. So that's what you should be doing with your cash. It's quintessential that you do that, because if you continue to try to have a consumer's mentality, buying things that have no intrinsic value, what happens is that what's going to happen is that the energy of your youth is going to be wasted in a consumer mentality. And one time, when it's time for you to retire and you can't work anymore, you won't have any assets to maintain your quality of life or standard of living going forward. So it's
But David, I have 401k on my job.
Yes, and I love those instruments. Those instruments are great until you find out that they don't pay and that they don't work from this standpoint, especially the deferred compensation ones. Do you think taxes are going to go up from here on?
Oh my God.
Do you really think that you're really getting deferred of taxation where it's benefiting you? Today in 2021, do you think taxes are going to stay where they are after all of the stimulus program, after the post-pandemic or the extension of the pandemic? Do you think taxes are going to go up or down going forward? I will tell you, they will never go down. It is the path of no return. Once you start at 1, it's going to 2, 3, 4, 5 to 50, 70, 80%. So,
but Biden said he was going to cut the taxes for the working class.
Yeah, right. Just wait for that. Wait for that. And you know what's so important, and this is why you have to have the right financial mentoring. Because one of the most important things about being charged of your own finances, I don't care what happens in the White House. I care what happens in my house. That's the first place that I start. And then happens is when you control resources and you control money, guess what you do? You get to tell the law, the actual the makers of the law, you tell them what you want and what is going to happen. So it's really important. When you control resources, you tell the economy what to do. When you don't control resources, the economy tells you where to be, how long to be there, at what rate of pay, what your break is going to be, how much vacation is you're going to get. And remember this, every job you have, they're either going to fire you or retire you. Either way, they're going to get rid of you. Either way, they're going to get rid of you. So it's very important that you really start to value yourself and build wealth. And the precious metals is the first and easiest way because it's God's money. It can never lose value. It can never go to zero. Paper contracts can, though, not the real.
So you brought up something that, in case somebody missed it, didn't understand it, or they're just tuning in, you talked about, and I know this somebody had a 360 spin, so I wanted you to come back, make a U-turn, and pick them up and bring them back to where we at on this. You said you have to turn your cash into money, and somebody went, "Where?"
Yes.
Explain that one to them.
It's very true. The proper way of building wealth is you convert debt into an asset.
So first, understand that cash is debt in and of itself, and I think that's the part that people in general don't understand. They look at cash as some sort of an asset or whatever. So in case you're just tuning in, the phrase for the day is cash is trash, because it is in fact a debt instrument. And so you want to convert that to money. So somebody wants to now say, oh, wow, I've been going about this whole thing wrong. I need to go out and buy silver. Do they buy from the commercial that comes on at 2 a.m?
Yeah, well, it's a couple of things. First, as you know, George, having a full fundamental understanding is critical. Is absolutely critical. There is a correct way to acquire the precious metals, and there's a wrong way to acquire the precious metals. What I do is I teach our clients how to save in the precious metals, but then also how to invest it. What I mean by this, I'll say it this way, not invest it is this way. Is actually to get interest off of your principal holdings of the metals. Basically how to get free silver and gold without paying for it anymore, okay? So there's a proper way to do everything. You could buy it online, you could buy it at different places, but here's the thing about that, and it's very important. If you don't get the proper education on that, only thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be giving that silver and gold to me and my clients, because there's a practice that there are things that we do that you're not aware of, and what's going to happen is that you're going to be giving me and my clients and people like me that understand how to use this, because you don't know its value, then you're going to lose it, and you're going to give it to me and people like me, and we're not going to take it. You're going to willingly give it to us. You're going to willingly give it to us, and you're going to think that you actually have gotten in a profitable situation. And I'll tell you how that works. What happens is the market, I don't care if the market pushes the price of gold and silver up or the price of gold and silver down. I win either way. What happens is that when you're price sensitive, you're only looking at the price, and what the market will do through its overall daily manipulation of that overall metric of price, they will price you into the market and then out of the market, and they will profit at all levels. You want to be just like the market. You want to be able to, you don't care if it goes up or goes down, you profit either way. And that's
now with that, are you talking about the ETFs and whatnot?
Well, no, it's the ETFs is how they act. Great, George. The ETFs is how they manipulate the market. So what happens, let's say, George, someone buys an ounce of gold at $1,000, then it goes up to $2,000. Then they say, oh shoot, I made a profit of $1,000. I'm gonna go get my money. Well, as soon as you sell at $2,000, you just lost, because what you never do is you never convert money into debt. The right conversion is taking your cash, transferring it into money, and then once you get money, you should only exchange money for a form of money. Now you're acquiring what? More and more resources. Now you're becoming wealthy. And because people think that cash is money, what happens, they think that it's proper to sell their precious metals and to get cash. And that's the wrong thing to do, because cash is the debt instrument. Read the daggone page, read the front of it. It tells you This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It's a debt note. So there's the proper instructions that you should have and the proper teachings. You need to learn how to convert that overall cash into money and then get interest off of the money that you now have in your physical possession. And you can basically get silver and gold, free silver and gold. I don't pay for silver and gold. My overall holdings of silver and gold is in the negatives. My cost per average for my silver is in the negative. My cost per average in my gold is in the negatives. So think of that. You go to the bank, you hear them saying negative interest rates. Where do you think these bankers come up with these terms? So my overall holdings of the precious metals is my cost per average is negative. So right now, 1 ounce of gold goes for about $1,823 about. Well, my overall for every ounce of gold that I have, physical gold that I have, I'm at negative $47.
Let me ask you about, because there's 3 things I want to hit before we get out of here. The first one is what you just mentioned as it relates to the physical holding. I do want you to speak on that. Like, should a person store these metals in a safe deposit box under the mattress? Should they have it in their possession at all, or should it be with a holding company? That's the first one. The second one is liquidity as it relates to a transactional standpoint, which I think is a bad thing. But if somebody is having, well, I tell you what, prerequisite to that part is, what is the solid foundation someone should accomplish or have prior to being able to invest in precious metals to where they don't have to turn right back around and try and liquidate it for a debt instrument?
Man, George, that is a great question. And so
now, don't turn over the dirt too much on them, because I want to go to class.
No. We actually have classes. We actually teach people how to acquire the precious metals correctly. We teach them how to gain interest off of their holdings of the precious metals. We teach them the difference between currency and money. We teach them the historical factors of the precious metal. And once you know all of these things, what happens is that you're breaking the schooling that you've been bombarded with your whole life. Now you're given another opportunity to create something that you really do, that you really should actually be seeking. And what is your birthright? That is to be prosperous and wealthy. What does that mean? That means that you can give an inheritance to those that you have yet not named. So to go to George's first question, should you hold the precious metals? What's the difference between the physical ETFs and things of that nature? Paper contracts of gold and silver. One, no, there isn't any person that I believe, this is my personal opinion based off of my experience. The only people that should be in the paper contract market on the COMEX, buying the New York spot price contracts with the COMEX, is major corporations and industries and precious metals dealers or miners themselves. Because of this, they have to leverage their overall inventory that they're purchasing, in corporations and industries for putting the silver inside of electronics, putting gold in everything they use gold for. So they're hedging against their overall physical purchase of the metals for the products or their production line. They're the only ones that should be buying contracts. The everyday person should not be buying contracts because it's not real silver or gold. You're never going to get a delivery of real silver and gold. They're only going to give you debt on it. What the everyday person should be doing is every time you get paid, whatever it is you don't want to lose through inflation, you should be transferring that into a form of money. And the best way to do that is the precious metals. So, and when you buy physical precious metals, you can buy it from us at Prosperity Mint. What you do not put it in a safety deposit box. Do not hold it at a depository. Texas is the first state to ever have a state depository. That's great, but it's not good for you because of this. Possession is 9/10 of the law. You can't own precious metals because of this. The precious metals wasn't created by you. You can't patent it. So what happens is this: if you have a bar and you put it in a depository or somebody else holds it for you, all they have to do is put fire to it, and whatever your name, your security number, your registry number will be taken off, and you will not be able to establish a chain of custody back to you. So the only people that should be holding your precious metals is you and the metals held physically. And there's a lot of different ways that you could do that. I don't talk about that. That's a private conference, because when you talk about the precious metal, security is paramount. But do not put it in the safety deposit box or anything like that, because the next economic crisis that we have, the banks are going to be closed and the safety deposit box are going to be depleted, and you're not going to get it back. So great question, George. Yes, you should be holding it yourself physically. If you don't hold it, you don't control it, then the overall attributes that it has is not to your benefit. It's to whomever has it. Okay? Mm-hmm. And your second question was, what was it again?
Well, what are some of the, what is some of the baseline essentials people should have in place in life prior to buying the metal, so that the first time the car breaks, they don't need to go?
That was it. Yeah, that was it. And that's one of the keys to becoming wealthy. Is you have to become a prodigious saver. You have to first learn how to live below your means. You are a millionaire and you live like a millionaire, you're broke. So if you're a millionaire, you better be living like 100,000-aire. If you're 100,000-aire, you better be living like 100. If you're 100-aire, then you better be living like a $50-aire. Whatever the overall you are, you need to be living 2 or 3 standards below that. That's number one.
People that all the time when they say, well, they need more money. I have clients that take in $500,000 a year and they're in the red, and I have clients under 100,000 that are like, you'll never know they have money, number one. And, but they live comfortable lives. And I always tell people, a problem isn't a problem until it exceeds your budget.
I love that. That's so true. It's so true. If you have more liabilities than you have assets, you are financially termed as being bankrupt. So one of the things that you have to do is we have to break our consumer mentality. How do you get an asset and you're able to grow that asset and keep it in your family? The only way that you can do that is because you are generating more assets than liabilities. And so you're not actually spending everything that you have. You should be saving more than you're spending, and there's a proper way to save. So that if you do have a financial crisis that comes along, you're fully able to meet. And I tell you what, generally that mentality of prodigious savers, you never get into that spot in the first place.
Would you recommend leveraging debt to acquire precious metal?
In certain instances, yes. Under certain circumstances, I would. And I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you have, for me, I'll tell you what I did personally. I took my overall retirement fund and I took it out of the debt paradigm and in the debt system, and I transferred, even with the penalties, I took it out and I purchased real money. And my overall gains from that was greater than what the market would have gave me at any time. So in certain instances, it depends on the individual. Now, do I suggest that you go out and run up your credit cards, acquiring the precious metals? One, you got to be careful of that, because what will happen is that the banks or the credit company will start to see that you're buying an asset and not using debt to buy. And guess what? They realize that they have debt problem because you have the asset, and they're going to close your account.
See, oh wow!
You got to be careful of that. So be careful with your credit cards, because your creditor will see what you're purchasing and will not like you purchasing that, because they realize this, and this is how I live. I don't have a debt problem. My creditors do, because I can afford to default my debt and not impact my quality of life or standard of living. So I've transferred the liability of default through assets to my creditors. So when you start doing that, the credit card company will see that you're buying real money, and they're going to say, they will say, hold up, you're not going to use our credit to get you real money. They want you to be consumers. They want you to be consumers, not prodigious savers. So I would be careful with that. And so you have to leverage. It's really on a case-by-case basis. It's just like anything with income taxes, George. You got to look at a person where they are, and then say, okay, this may be an option and the best thing for you.
So 2 more questions on that, because one of them is stemming from the security question, or the security mantra about people being able to basically burn off whatever engraving or whatever is on there, complicating the ownership proof or whatever. Do you see in the industry, do you see the technology of blockchain becoming associated with that investment piece, and adding to that? And I wish I could have got my man Keith Miles on, but I didn't think of this until just now. You brought it to my attention. When we talk about legacy wealth, say you've built up this stockpile of metals. If I'm hearing you correctly, it doesn't sound like a will in and of itself would suffice for transferability securely anyway. And then from a trust standpoint, seems like it would increase the tax value on it. So how do you see a blockchain application coming in that industry? And then 2, how do you securely transfer or pass down these assets, because we're talking about wealth building?
Right. Great question. One, the transfer should be done through a trust. It definitely should be done through a trust. And one of the things is that the precious metals, and that's one of the great things about the precious metals, is that when you never have a real tax signature until you sell it. You have to sell it, right? You have to sell it. So you don't want to ever sell it. What you should be doing is actually exchanging it. There's actually laws that are coming out in the United States that gold and silver is going to be legal tender. So what that means is that, let's say you buy a property. That means you're going to be given a lordal title on that property, where you don't have to pay property tax because you didn't use a debt instrument or a mortgage to acquire it. So that bond that property is under, a bond is now going to be nullified because it was real money that was used to acquire it. So there are going to be a lot of different changes that go along with it. I'm in Texas because in Texas, you can't tax. So there's no sales tax to a certain limit for the first $1.1 million of your sales of the precious metals, because it's real money. So there are different tax laws that go along everywhere. That's very important. So the proper thing that you want to do is to get with a qualified tax expert or person. They can guide you on the overall laws of your state, where you are, and your conditions that will apply to you. But for me, all of our assets are not in my name. They're in my overall trust name. And so the trust now controls those assets, and it's passed down to, it stays in the trust. And what happens is that there are individuals within my family that are a part of that trust, and they get the full benefits of that assets without owning it. So no one can take it from them. There's no court, there's no judge that can seize that from them because they don't actually own it. They just control it. So when it comes to real money, you want to control everything and own
And
nothing.
that goes back to that acronym I always tell y'all about once. And I'm a very transparent guy, David. And
Yeah.
there was a time where I was Mr. Cash is King and Mr. Own Everything Around You. And when I got exposed to the other side of the game, I was like, wow. Now, what I didn't realize was that my philosophy was right.
Yes.
The process was wrong, because cash in the sense of I don't want to live above my means.
Yes.
That's what I should have been saying. Ownership, though,
it's a liability.
What I meant by ownership was I had the mindset that you can't control what you did not own. And when I came across that acronym, own nothing, control everything, I call it once upon a time. Own nothing, control everything. It was a game changer. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And these are the things, and I tell everybody, that type of thing it's just above where you're at. You can't know these things if the people around you aren't talking about them, and I came across it on a show on social media, and somebody challenged my thought process, and he happened to come in town, and we sat and talked. Shout out to Douglas Easy. But we sat down and talked, and when he broke this thing down to me, I was like, son, mama, watch out there now. And it was just a game changer. And so, of course, me being me, I jumped down the rabbit hole to see what else I could find. And of course, I wanted to apply everything to tax law because I'm like, okay, the first thing I want to know is what is the tax implications on this? How much of this do I actually keep? And then when I learned that there wasn't just because the first thing, I thought was when he told me about a trust, I was like, why would I enter into a 39% taxable situation? But then I learned the process. And when that process got broken down, as a matter of fact, Roger was on earlier. I don't know if he's still on, but he asked me about it first.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was just going to bring Roger up.
He asked me about it first. And when he asked me about it, he came at me from a different angle, so I didn't see it. He was asking me about the tax side of a trust, but it was just a simple, broad question. I'm like, yeah, who would do that? But when I got into the process, of it, I was like, oh, this is sexy. Oh, wait a minute, And so all of my high net worth clients, I put it in front of them. I don't sell anybody anything. I put it in front of you. You got to apply it yourself, though.
You do. And, you remember when you talked about staying in your lane? Make sure you put your blinker on if you're going to get. See, my lane is the precious metals. Roger is definitely someone that you really need to talk about with the trust and foundations. That's that's Roger. Roger is actually a good friend of mine, a client of mine. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I didn't mean to put Roger out like that. But Roger and I work together and have worked together for a very long time. But that's the person that you really, I would defer all of the trust part of it to Roger, and that's who I definitely think you should have on as a guest, George, because is really, really important. Then you talked about the cryptocurrency side of things. I definitely see that in the future that the smart contracts will be instrumental in some of the silver and gold space. But one of the things about, and you don't have to be anti-gold and silver to be pro crypto or anti-crypto and pro-gold and silver. There are two different totalium means that are necessary. I will just say
you have to have balance. In anything, you have to have balance. You don't want to be.
Have balance. The precious metals is the only way to acquire wealth. Bitcoin actually started my overall company. I sold my Bitcoin to buy my inventory to start my company. So I got Bitcoin when it was $8. So, but crypto is this. I do see smart contracts helping in that area, but when it comes
that's what I mean, more of the blockchain technology, not the actual cryptocurrency.
The smart contracts will help in that. But to answer your question about authenticity and about chain of custody, it's not going to, because that has to be physically done for the physical item. So I like to put it this way: is that the cryptocurrency is for the cloud, and the precious metals is for your vault.
Gotcha. That's case in point closed right there. That's the simplest way to explain that.
Yes. And so
if you want to reach out to David, and I took this, was scrolling across the bottom, I took from the website. Is that still the class link there? Okay, so it's special notice for those of you listening to the playback on your favorite podcast station. It is preciousmetals.edu.eventbrite.com, and you can also visit David on prosperitymint.com. And I'm guessing when you go to the Eventbrite, the class schedules and whatnot are on there, or is it a cloud-based storage thing there?
The best thing to do is to actually contact us directly through email. And that's at info@prosperitymint.com. If you're interested in taking the classes, because we will update the overall Eventbrite that's there. But the best way, because it's we have people from all over the world, different time zones and everything else. So if someone is interested in actually taking our classes, is definitely email us at info@prosperitymint.com, and then we will respond to you and set up what's good for you, put you in with other classes. Maybe you want to take it with your family members, which I highly suggest that you take, especially if it's a husband and wife. You definitely want to take it with your significant other. If there's responsibilities that you share, cohabiting responsibilities that you share, and then also if there's family members and if there's business partnerships and things of that nature, we can facilitate all of those. So that's the best way to actually get in contact with us. And also to buy precious metals, you can definitely email us there first, because we're not selling to the general public anymore. I'm not selling it to customers anymore. I'm only selling our precious metals to clients, because there's a supply and demand problem that's going to happen. I have to make sure all of my clients are being serviced and not just the general population. I want to take care of through collective prudence, take care of everyone that's taking care of us. So that's the best way to acquire the precious metals directly from us. And then it's all physical, and then the classes. And once you do that, the classes will open your eyes to so much more. It's not just about precious metals.
I had a personal question to ask, because I didn't get to catch you on that other live. I said, I'll just ask you when you go on there. So you were holding these little bars, and then there was some inside of a case that was like coins. And then there was just this big block that you had on there. And you were talking about the different values and sizes and everything. And so I wanted to ask, if someone was accumulating those little bars, I don't know if they were half ounce or 1 ounce.
They were ounce bars.
But if someone was accumulating those, would they then exchange those for that big block, or is it better to keep the smaller bars?
That's a great question, George, because the smaller bars are great because it's easier to have a medium of exchange because they're smaller, but the premiums on those are much more. The best thing to do is to start to acquire 1 ounce rounds, not coins, because the premiums on coin are a little bit more. It's the same silver. Coin and a round have no different silver purity or assay any different. They're either 999 or they're not. Okay, so but the premiums on coins, which is minted by a government, they get the same silver blanks. They just press it, and now it's a coin, and it's a legal tender for that government. So the best thing to do is to buy silver rounds and acquire and start to save in that way. And then as you start to move along, maybe you want to get some grams. So maybe you want to get a kilo bar, which is 32 ounces. Maybe you want to get a 100-ounce bar. That's what you saw was a 100-ounce bar. If
you're just tuning in, we're not talking about dope.
No. A kilo bar of silver, and then 100-ounce of silver or gold. And then there's sometimes better to buy gold over silver, and then there's times that you should be acquiring silver over gold. Right now,
but you got the clients on that particular part anyway, right?
Yeah, right. You should be acquiring silver now.
I don't know if you noticed based on my background and everything, but I'm kind of big on branding. So do you guys do pressing? Like if I bought a bar or whatever, can I get my shield pressed onto there?
Yeah. I definitely could actually hook you up with our people that do that. Yeah. So you're gonna want a die cast. You're gonna want a die cast made. For your overall for your silver. Yes, you could definitely, that can be done.
Awesome. Info@prosperitymint.com. David, thank you for being on today. Wealth of information. I know you were trying to go deeper into that thing, but I wanted you to say something because I wanted to come to the class and really get this knowledge on a more in-depth level without leaving them hanging in the wind too much, because some of that stuff was over some people's head. You can watch it 2-3 more times, or you can go to info@prosperitymint.com, reach out to David, get scheduled for a class, bring the family along, make this a real generational and legacy thing. You talk about generational wealth. We're changing the game. We're talking about legacy wealth now. David, anything you wanted to leave everybody with?
Definitely. If you do contact us, please let me know that you heard us on Boss, so that we can actually talk to George and having a great appreciation for his time, his effort, and everything else. So please let me know that you heard us here on Boss, and that's basically it. We're real cut and dry. It's time to actually acquire money, and once you do that, you're actually starting to start your overall path towards creating wealth. And I tell you, that's really what's needed, especially in today's economy.
And we went on a hiatus because of COVID, but when we have the next Boss 2020 seminar, I want to invite you out to speak on that, because this next one is going to be more about the wealth creation and the handling of money more so than operational compliance. So we're going to reach out to you for that. I'm sure it's going to be here in Dallas, and we'll figure out, we're still working on the logistics of streaming and everything. So we're definitely going to reach out to you for that. David Wren, ladies and gentlemen, with Prosperity Mint. Reach out to him at info@prosperitymint.com. We will see you hopefully on next week. God say the same. We're still here, still breathing. We will see you on next week for another episode of Boss Talk Radio. See you guys then.
Boss Talk Radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. Boss